Hey there, Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. And if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I am a Western Practical Astrologer. Okay, so I am here today with a pretty exciting, interesting video, I think, because I am going to walk you through the role of your Scorpio house as Pluto re-enters Aquarius on the 19th of November, and it will be there for the next 20 years or so. So, what role will your Scorpio house play throughout it all? We're going to get into it. Now, before we do, if you would like to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. There you can also find all of my astrology products. And also, if you do enjoy this information today, then please be sure to give the video a like if you do like it. If you find it to be helpful, of course, as well. And make sure to subscribe if you have not already. Okay, so we're going to break this down, everyone. And I hope that I make this information somewhat simplified and easy to understand. So we see here that I have circled the Scorpio symbol. The thing about Scorpio is that its modern day ruler is Pluto. And so Pluto is going to be in Aquarius, so just a few signs away, for the next 20 years. So as Pluto travels through Aquarius, we want to think about how Pluto rules Scorpio. So there is some kind of connection, there is a relationship between your Scorpio house and your Aquarius house throughout the next 20 years. Also keep in mind as well that these signs square one another in the zodiac. So with squares, we can see conflict, we can see tension. There is a squaring off kind of energy happening. There can be power struggles, but there can also be an opportunity to really address both parties. How can we seek win-win outcomes? How can we solve problems? How can we come up with solutions? So we will touch more on this, of course, because what we're going to do is we're going to explore what your Scorpio house is all about, and then we will look to naturally the Aquarius house. What is that all about? And then we will look at the relationship between these two houses for each of the signs. That way, for Pluto re-entering Aquarius, you will be more than prepared. The thing to further say is I have created horoscopes for all 12 signs. I have explored your Pluto in Aquarius story, so make sure to check out your horoscopes there for more information. But this is just really adding another layer. So here's the other thing though, right? I want to mention that Scorpio season has begun. I'm recording this on the 24th of October 2024, and Scorpio season started on the 23rd of October 2024. So the pretty interesting thing I think about this transition of Pluto re-entering Aquarius is, well, we've got the sun shining its light on our Scorpio house all throughout Scorpio season. And then just a few days before we wrap up Scorpio season, boom, the ruler of Scorpio and one of the dispositors of the sun re-enters Aquarius. So we could maybe look at it like this. With Pluto hanging out at 29 degrees Capricorn throughout most of Scorpio season. Keep in mind that Pluto is still that ruler of Scorpio. So we can take this Scorpio season as an opportunity to maybe perform a lot of reflection. We can go inward. We can consider, okay, what has happened for me throughout the past 16 years as Pluto has been in Capricorn? Which foundations and structures have transformed in my life? Perhaps things to do with status and success and professionalism have certainly went through their renewals within your Capricorn house. So take the time to just go within, review, reassess. And I know I'm saying all of these words like it's a retrograde sort of thing, but it's more just about this 29th degree, right? It's a kind of a way to appreciate the past 16 years. And I know things have also been rather difficult for many. With Pluto can certainly have its downs, its challenges, its frustrations, sorrow, grief, loss. These things are very much a part of Pluto. And so we've seen these themes heavily play out within our Capricorn house over these past 16 years. But still, hopefully we can just reflect and consider which lessons have we learned, and maybe even a part of the sun being in Scorpio whilst all of this is going on. We can also dive into that of our Scorpio house, and we can really explore the unconscious. We can look at those deeper layers and deeper themes. And then there is that opportunity to bring what is hidden to light. But more information about your Scorpio house to come, just so you can maybe gain more info about what that means. But before we get to that, here's the other thing. I hope this doesn't confuse you too much, but in the Pluto in Aquarius videos, we explored the dispositor of Pluto throughout the next 20 years. So with Pluto being in Aquarius, remember that Saturn, which is the traditional ruler of Aquarius, Saturn is one of the dispositors of Pluto in this case, one of the rulers of Aquarius. So Saturn is currently in Pisces. And what it will do is it will travel, if you notice here, it will travel all the way through those signs. So from Pisces all the way to which sign? Scorpio, to Scorpio. And then naturally Pluto will enter Pisces. And then the dispositor of Pluto will change. That will be more Jupiter and Neptune. But for the next 20 years, the dispositor of Pluto is going to be Saturn and Uranus. Again, if you want more information about your story, videos are available. But I find it very interesting that when we come to the end of Pluto being in Aquarius, Saturn will be in Scorpio. And then with the beginning, right, we go back to the sun, right? The sun is in Scorpio. So maybe with the beginning here, and I know as well, we have dipped our toes into what Pluto in Aquarius has to offer us, because Pluto has went back and forth a little bit there throughout 2023 and 2024, I know. But maybe, just maybe, the sun being in Scorpio, whilst all of this stuff opens, the opening says, okay, what about your ego? How will your ego transform? How will the old layers of yourself transform? Which kinds of renewals will you experience when it comes to your individuality, when it comes to how you express yourself? This is so much about our feelings of empowerment, our resilience, being courageous, being brave. We're asked to be brave, right? We could, of course, see this as, oh my goodness, what's going to happen with Pluto and Aquarius over the next 20 years? What could come up? But the sun in Scorpio serves as a reminder that you got this, okay? Be brave, be courageous, be bold, be fierce. Do not put up with BS. You've got this. You have got this. Then we come to the end, right? So the end of the huge era that we're about to open, right? And so the end of the era could be about flipping heck. I can really see how solid I am as a person, how stable, how steady I am when it comes to my emotional resilience. Like, what? How much I have, oh, how much I've changed in my emotional power and wisdom, especially with Saturn first being in Pisces, right? So Saturn goes into Pisces and then all the way around to Scorpio, two water signs, right? And they trine each other in the zodiac too. So there's just something about this unshakable energy to do with our emotional landscape. And it makes me think about a lot of information that I've been watching online to do with how other people cannot control how we feel. It's not our responsibility to control how other people feel either. There's just so much strength and wisdom coming through, I think, when it comes to our emotions, our feelings. But also, this could be a very spiritual journey throughout the next 20 years. And then naturally, Pluto will enter Pisces after Aquarius. Coincidence? I think not. Okay, so furthermore, let's just get into what your Scorpio house is about. We will explore the Aquarius house, and then we will go through your horoscopes and just look at the relationship between these two houses. So, as I say, you will be more prepared, hopefully. I mean, with Aquarius, Scorpio energy, it could always be expect the unexpected, but let's see. So, your Scorpio house is an area of life, like I said, where you transform and where you regenerate. So, transformation, what exactly is this? Transformation can be many things. I mean, this could be a transformation due to a loss. This could be a loved one. This could be a pet, right? This could even be the loss of a job, a relationship coming to a close, some kind of divorce or separation. This could even be transformation when it comes to some sort of renewal, growth, right? Maybe it is that you come into a lot of money, or there's so much success to a point of, oh my goodness, I never thought that would be possible, right? Of course, transformation could also look like having a child. It could be your identity really changing. But essentially, transformation is about this sort of the image that I get when I think about this is how a caterpillar transforms into a beautiful butterfly, but it needs to go through that cocoon stage to really do its stuff to change. Things need to happen there within the cocoon before it comes out and it's renewed. So you could perhaps think of it this way. Or, you could always think of this as a bit more aggressive. And I say this without creating fear, hopefully, but it could be a pretty aggressive thing, where you're almost forced to change something about your life. You're forced to maybe address something within yourself. But whatever the case may be, transformation occurs. And the thing to further say is that often when it comes to transformation, we notice that things can fall apart. It can feel like the whole world is falling apart around us. And it's like, what do I do? Where do I go? Where do I turn? All this kind of stuff can happen. But I think it's also important to keep in mind that whilst it can really be challenging and there are strong emotions connected to all that stuff, it's also seeing that there will come a day, there will come a time when you're able to look back and you're able to go, wow, like I've grown. I've really changed. Oh my goodness. Indeed, transformation. The other thing is your Scorpio house looks at where you probe and look beneath the surface. So it's really a hidden house. It's where you might pick up on things that a lot of people don't see. It could be that you do a lot of research or you investigate something. It could be that you maybe come across as if you are interrogating a situation and maybe probing a bit into other people's BS or their lies, if they're being deceitful. It could also be a case of you can see those hidden layers. It's almost this thing of it's not what people say that you're listening to, it's more about what they're not saying. What are they not saying? And you can pick up on those clues. The Scorpio house is also where you establish trust and emotional bonds. And I suppose trust is a very big key word for Scorpio. Scorpio is not really the sign to open up super quickly, especially those with moon in Scorpio. But yes, so trust is really important in that, it requires time. Trust requires time. It's also that saying of trust can take so long to build, but it can take a second to break. Yeah, and that's quite extreme, isn't it, when you really think about it? But that's really what Scorpio is about. Scorpio teaches us this, and naturally too, emotional bonds fall under this house. So how connected are you emotionally to another person? Even this could be an item. This could be some kind of position or a role or a job, whatever have you too. This could also be animals. Those emotional bonds and connections could happen. Naturally, this could be about friendships or even a therapist or a counselor or your partner, etc. Then we also notice here devotion. Devotion, very, very trustworthy. There's a loyalty to this sign. There's a loyalty to your Scorpio house. There's also desire then. So desires and lust, I think, could also fall under this house. SEX could also fall under this house, and there's vulnerability there too. So I feel as if vulnerability goes hand in hand with trust. When we can be vulnerable, it can create more of this trustworthy feeling, but then equally it's like we need to feel like we can trust someone before we are vulnerable. We can go to extremes within the Scorpio house. Very intense. The fluctuations can be very intense, turbulent perhaps as well. Even following on from this, the Scorpio house can be where we're quite compulsive. Compulsions can happen, obsessions can happen. We can obsess and fixate. I think fixate is a good word. We can fixate on things. We can ruminate heavily there. So that's maybe something to be slightly cautious of, and in this way, addiction could fall under this house. We can really spiral, right? We can go into a dark hole. We can spiral. We can experience those times when it feels as if everything is falling down around us. And maybe this is where even the intensities can come and the turbulence can come. But then, with intensity can also be, it can be this intense SEX feeling, these feelings, the SEXual feelings. And I'm just spelling out the word just because of monetization and things like that. But even with intensity, it could be that you just feel things so intensely underneath, right? You feel things intensely within. Then the Scorpio house is also tied to intimacy, shared resources, and exploring the unconscious. Intimacy can, of course, be established through vulnerability and trust, but intimacy could also be through some kind of sexual connection, this emotional connection as well. We then go back to emotional bonding. And with shared resources, of course, this is about, for instance, whenever you marry another and you share, right? What is it? What's mine is yours, or what's yours is mine. I can't quite remember the terminology there, but when you get married and things whatever belongs to your spouse essentially belongs to you. It's that sort of thing. I get that there's also a lot of legal things that can be put in place there, prenups and things like that. I understand, but even on that note, this is what Scorpio is about. Scorpio is about when we share resources. And then strength, courage, resilience. My goodness, to have the strength, to have the courage, especially to make it through a dark time, a difficult time, to have that resilience to overcome something very, very challenging. And then self-mastery also falls under this. It's interesting because with this, Capricorn is also a sign of self-mastery, but I feel as if Scorpio is more about the emotional self-mastery, and then Capricorn is more about the practical self-mastery. So both signs can be very disciplined, very determined, loyal. But yes, Capricorn, I guess, is more about the material, the practical, the physical, but Scorpio is about the emotional, but then even that can be used as a way to gain them some kind of success, status, power. Power is a big one there. And then self-preservation. So self-preservation is really about survival, protection. So we think about your Scorpio house. It could be where maybe you've had to fight for your survival. You've had to defend yourself, protect yourself, shield yourself, if you will. Even think about the very Scorpion symbol. It's the scorpion. The Scorpio symbol, sorry, that's the scorpion. And it has that shell and the pinchers, etc., and also the tail, the venomous tail there. So do keep that in mind with self-preservation. It is very much about survival. So we look to the Scorpio house and we see these qualities and themes too. On that note, though, just to mention, we also want to think about Pluto and Scorpio. I mean, Pluto can also be about the Minerva version of the planet. So we think about the phoenix, okay? The mighty phoenix, which rises from the ashes of its predecessor. So you think about times whenever maybe you've suffered a defeat, or someone has tried to bring you down, or they've betrayed you, they've hurt you, and then you sort of think about you rising up from the ashes and you become anew. You're like, you thought you beat me? Hi, I'm back and I'm stronger than ever. Not today. It's that kind of thing. But there's also a lot of wisdom in this. Okay, Scorpio, I think, also can be a very compassionate, empathetic sign, but just don't get on the wrong side of that Scorpio energy. So we want to think about these themes essentially when we explore the Scorpio house. Okay, then we move on to the Aquarius house, and I'm just going to keep this one a bit more brief, a bit more to the point, and it's just really to familiarize you with Aquarius and what this archetype, what this sign is all about. So your Aquarius house is more about the area of life where you progress, you innovate. It's about social change. It's about doing things differently. It's about uniqueness. Connecting with like minds is also a big Aquarius theme. We think about community and groups and clubs and joining together. But hey, it's also about keeping your individuality as you do so. Then it's a house where you focus on your hopes and your dreams. And we want to think then also about how with our hopes and dreams, it's not necessarily that our hopes and dreams come true. It's more just about our wishes. It's more about, okay, I really, I hope for this to happen. I wish for this to happen, being quite idealistic as well. Naturally, things could happen. They could do, but it's still Aquarius that reminds us to never give up hope. Okay? Never give up hope. The dawning of a new day. The dawning of a new era. With Pluto entering Aquarius. Then the Aquarius house is also a house of determination, ambition. Think about the Saturnian side of Aquarius, but it's also a house of rebellion and freedom with the Uranus side of Aquarius. Naturally, we do share our knowledge, right, with the water bearer symbol, right? We pour out that water, that information, that knowledge to the world. And we seek fairness. We seek fairness within our Aquarius house. Naturally, fairness can look differently it really depends on the person, I guess, when it comes to fairness, right? And the Aquarius house is also tied to friendships. as I said earlier, grips and then challenging the status quo. I sort of mentioned this in the Pluto and Aquarius video. As the crowd goes one way, Aquarius will observe and question the crowd and go, why are they going there? What's happening over there? And will choose for themselves ultimately. So we could see a lot of this happen naturally with Pluto traveling through Aquarius. And then there's also an eccentric sort of quality to the sign. They can be quite well. That when I say they, I mean the archetype can be quite quirky and paradoxical as well. There's the whole thing of Aquarius being known for being hypocritical, just difficult to difficult to fence in or categorize or box. You know, they can't really fit them into a certain box. The archetype, I mean, rather the archetype. But hey, you know what? If you've got a lot of Aquarius placements, yeah, this can apply. Then the last thing I want to say is Aquarius can be pretty fanatical. Yeah, very firm, stubborn, fixed. There can be that fixed energy there. So I guess you could say that as we do explore the Aquarius-Scorpio relationship, you know, between these houses over the next 20 years, maybe there will be some challenges to do with being fixated, right? The Scorpio part of it could be where we fixate emotionally, and the Aquarius part of it could be where we fixate mentally. And there could be some kind of clashes in agreement, of course. But hey, you know, we're going to get into this as we explore your signs. But that's just basically a rundown. I hope that you have found it to be helpful. And on that note, let's get into your horoscopes. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so first up we have Aries. So Aries, your Scorpio house is in the 8th house. By the way, I am using the whole sign system just to mention. I understand that there are other house systems to use. But anyway, Aries, Scorpio is in the 8th house in your chart. And so we notice for you that when it comes to things like your own personal transformations and your growth and how you regenerate, there is a lot of intensity that happens. And you really do go to your depths, and you're forced, I think, to look at yourself, to address what's buried, to address what's within. There could also be a lot to do with what you repress, what you deny within yourself. And so you may find that with Pluto traveling through your 11th house over the next 20 years, that it's almost like you're going to be forced to transform when it comes to any assumptions to do with community and joining with like minds. I think this could even be an opportunity for you to overcome your fears in some way, shape, or form, for you to progress and to innovate, actually. And maybe by you putting your best foot forward, maybe by you questioning or challenging the status quo, you might find that you transform greatly. You know, your perspective about life really changes. And a lot of this is from the inside out. So just to say, of course, you know, the Aquarius house is in the 11th house, right? And that is so much about your communities and your group involvements, your group participations. So indeed, I think this could be a case of you overcoming a lot of your fears there. And maybe too, this is trust, right? This is about trust in your humanity, trust in the goodness of others, trust in the kindness of others even. Maybe this is about fellowship and really banding together and just being a part of something that's bigger than yourself, I suppose you could say. And again, I feel as if a lot of this will help you even assess the things that held you back, you know, when you kind of reflect throughout this, throughout the transit. Maybe it'll be a good opportunity for you to go, oh, wow, I can't believe that I was afraid of that. I didn't realize that, you know, that part of me existed and I could reinvent myself and I could change in these ways. could be really interesting for you here, Aries. But what we want to think about, Aries, is, so if we move over, let's think about how the 8th and the 11th houses, they are known as succeeding houses. So succeeding houses, they stabilize what the angular houses start. So let's think of it this way. With Pluto being in your 10th house there for the past 16 years, what was started, right? So we think about, we think about your professional lives, we think about your status and your achievements and your accomplishments. You underwent a lot of transformation and renewal there to do with these very areas. So it's almost like Pluto now is coming into a succeeding house and is challenging you to socialize, is challenging you to sort of take what you learned from how your professional life has transformed, to take those lessons and to carry them forward and to maybe make a difference within society, to maybe help, within communities, or to maybe socialize in a whole new way. Naturally, the thing is that, so the succeeding house, so the 11th house, is part of the trinity of socializing. And the trinity of socializing is really about how we communicate. And as I say, as it says there clearly, it's about how we socialize. It's about how we engage. So there seems to be that tension and that challenge when it comes to socializing and how these things can impact you emotionally, right? Because the 8th house is part of the trinity of emotions. And so maybe this is about vulnerability, right? Having to address your own vulnerabilities within groups, within communities. Again, I feel as if this goes back to trust. Then, when we further move over here to where these houses are, so if we think about the 8th house and then the 11th house, so I do not have the zodiac symbols here, but it's hopefully just a bit more simplified to help you understand. But this stuff is happening in the southern hemisphere for you. So the southern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere is really about our ambition, and it's about us being out there in the world. So I sort of see this as you, in some respects, being forced outside of your comfort zone in huge ways here, Aries. Oh yeah, it's time to be brave. It's time to be courageous, Aries. I don't have to tell you about that. But I think a lot of this is about how you show up more on a collective scale there, right? How you maybe advance in some way when it comes to your career, when it comes to your ambitions. One more quick thing as well, Aries, before we move on to Taurus. Just remember that Mars, which by the way, Mars is your ruler, right? Mars is also the ruler of Scorpio. So what's important to do is to follow Mars. I think the cycle of Mars, as Mars goes through all of the 12 signs throughout its 2.5 year period, I think it's important to address those cycles and to maybe see how your layers will transform and change as, of course, Mars completes a cycle. But to maybe even help you a little bit with the beginning of this transit, to help you would be Mars will be in Leo. So Mars will enter Leo and then will retrograde in Leo and Cancer. So this will be more from the 6th of December through to about February, March time, about that. So this is more the end of 2024 coming into 2025, just to give you something to work with, Aries. And I'm really just honing in on you because you're ruled by Mars, right? So Mars could bring up a lot to do with your self-expression and your creativity. You may have an opportunity to reassess these areas throughout December. But a bigger part of this, I think, is about your emotional security and your emotional needs. So I want you to maybe just take the time to reflect on these areas a bit more I would say, in a sensitive fashion, in quite a sensitive fashion, especially because Scorpio can be such a sensitive and protective sign. But then also remember, relate this information to do with, okay, the trust and the vulnerability and the fear stuff within communities and groups. Okay. So, for example, this could be a case of by you addressing your willpower and your drive to do with your self-expression and creativity. Well, that can really assist you when it comes to the impacts that you make within society. That can assist you within groups and teams and maybe collaborating on a more collective level. And then with Mars in the fourth house, so another example could be by you reassessing the ways in which you are driven when it comes to family matters, or thinking about how you may be motivated when it comes to meeting your emotional needs and getting what you want there. By performing this stuff, by reassessing this stuff, maybe as well, you can get a feel for, okay, which kinds of people do I want to connect with? Who are the people that I can collaborate with there? Just it's more about feelings, right? How does this feel to me? How does this sit with me? Yeah, this I think can be really helpful for you in terms of your own personal development, right? Thinking about self-development, because Mars, of course, will be in the northern hemisphere as the Mars retrograde happens. But again, Mars will continue on. So just maybe check in and follow, keep up to date with Mars throughout the next 20 years too, to see how things unfold and to relate that information, of course, back to that of the trust and the vulnerability stuff, especially thinking about how these things show up within group participations. Thank you so much, Aries. All the best here throughout the transit. And we're going to move on to Taurus. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Taurus. So what is going on for you? So Taurus, your Scorpio house is in the 7th, your Aquarius house is in the 10th. So with your Scorpio house being in the 7th here, Taurus, we notice that when it comes to relationships and partnerships, you need to feel like there is an emotional bond, that there is trust that has been established. There's this devotion as well. And as well, we notice that you desire intimacy. There can be intensity within your relationships. Often, too, it is your personal power and your own intensities that are reflected back at you through others. So we notice for you that where you transform quite a bit throughout your life is when it comes to partnerships, relationships. And you're also asked to be strong, to be resilient and courageous. Naturally, this is also about your own self-mastery, your own emotional self-mastery there within partnerships too. But you see, with Pluto then traveling through the 10th house, we're going to see how it's your life path, your accomplishments, your achievements, the renewals and the transformations that you go through within these areas, and how they can perhaps influence or impact the ways in which you show up within your relationships. Of course, there could be some challenge, there could be some tension because of that square aspect happening between these houses. And then also think of it as these are angular houses. So we want to consider how the 7th house is about your relationship identity, and then the 10th house is about your public identity. So there could be some kind of tension present For instance, this could be a case of you wanting to succeed or wanting to follow your own successes and your own ambitions there, being quite determined there as well. It could be a hope or a wish to do with your career path. So you want to maybe commit yourself, follow things, but then there could be that resistance or that tension with a spouse or with your significant other. Or it could be that you're forced to maybe change when it comes to your professional life. And then again, there can be some tension and challenge and potential struggle there within partnerships. Naturally, this could also apply to business, right? So there could be some kind of business situation, a business partnership that maybe is challenged or tested because of a new direction, because of a new path on your part. But I also see this as you perhaps being recognized a great deal by the public for your ability to transform within groups, or by you challenging the status quo, you even being recognized for some eccentric or paradoxical qualities and traits there. But whatever the case, what we want to think about then is how, like I said, these are angular houses. So with angular houses are so much about the beginning. They mark the beginning, and they're connected with different parts of our identity. So like I said, the 7th is about relationship identity. The 10th is about more public identity. You could also look at this as career identity too, your professional identity. So with this square aspect, yes, this is where we see some of that tension. And then to further add, the 7th house is part of the trinity of socializing, and that house is then also being challenged by the trinity of substance. So with the 7th house, socializing is more one-on-one. This is more about your spouse, this is more about your significant other, a business partner, a close friend. And then with the trinity of substance, with the 10th especially, that substance is, well, it's more about the long term, the long haul. So like I said, there could be some challenges to do with what you wish to build for the long haul with a significant other. This is not to say that this is a bad thing. I just want to say, after all, with Aquarius, we can innovate, we can create change, we can think outside of the box. So there's that opportunity to do that. And then even with Scorpio, there is commitment, right? There is that loyalty as well. So in this regard, we could even look at this as an example of you wanting to build for the future in some way, shape, or form with your significant other, with a business partner, right? Thinking about investments, thinking about the business itself and the growth that you wish to obtain there, and how you want to reach wider audiences as well. And maybe even there are other group members that come into the equation with Aquarius being highlighted. So as you do all of this, right, those are just some examples, there is still that stability, right? Or there is that, I should say, that devotion. It's like there's going to be tough times up ahead. Things are going to get rocky. Things are going to get turbulent. But you know what? We're in this together. We're not going to let this stuff shake up our commitment to each other. It could be this sort of attitude. But hey, you know what? Could also be where things are so challenged and so tested that you go, no, going our separate ways, can't do this. And that's also okay too, right? Then we see that for you, similar to Aries, this stuff is happening in the southern hemisphere, right? So the 7th to the 10th. It's happening in the southern hemisphere. And so a lot of this is about the collective. A lot of this is about reaching audiences, and it's about your career path, it's about your vocation and the changes that you wish to see there. Then again, we could also partly look at this as with so there is this quadrant, the 7th to the 10th So the houses of 7, 8, and 9, basically, that quadrant. Houses 7, 8, and 9 being activated. And so there's also an element here of self-exploration and expansion and growth. Okay, Taurus. So just to mention before we wrap up that Mars is another important key player to address as Pluto travels through Aquarius, because Mars is going to be the other ruler of the Scorpio house. So Mars can really give you some insight into things like your willpower and your drive and how you may be tested and challenged over the next 20 years. So explore more about Mars throughout that period. I mean, Mars is just not a planet I've included just because that would take a very long time. Oh, and just one more quick thing here I want to say for you, Taurus. Remember that Pluto has been in your 9th house for the past 16 years. So you can look at this as you carrying over all of the knowledge and wisdom you have gained, right? Over the past 16 years, you just carry that knowledge over into that of your career and your professional lives. Even thinking about how that knowledge and wisdom is tied to the likes of collaboration, clients, customers, business deals, agreements, contracts. So yes, basically you could use Scorpio season here as just a way to reflect or to just think about what you have learned. And then as Pluto enters your 10th house, hopefully you will be equipped with the information you need to maybe establish yourself further. Thank you so much, Taurus. And now we're going to move on to Gemini. Okay, so Gemini, what is coming up for you as Pluto travels through Aquarius and we explore the Scorpio house? Well, your Scorpio house is located in the 6th, and then your Aquarius house is located in the 9th. So with Scorpio in your 6th house, we notice here for you, Gemini, that you tend to, well, really generate power and significant growth, significant transformation and renewal when it comes to things like the services you offer, the work that you do. We think about how you may step into a position of leadership in some way, shape, or form, or it's that you are very courageous. You show a great deal of resilience and strength whenever it comes to your working life. And we also notice the extremes you can go to when it comes to your health, when it comes to your eating habits or your routines, right? It can be this all or nothing attitude often. And we also notice that when it comes to coworker relationships, it's really important to you that there's some level of trust there. And I also kind of see this as you being willing to call out the BS whenever you see it, especially with respect to co-workers. You're going to be quite guarded and quite protective, actually. You're not going to put up with inappropriate, rude behavior within the workplace. Let's just say that. So with Pluto then being one of the rulers of your 6th house, Pluto will be in the 9th throughout the next 20 years. And so this is where we're going to see quite the change, quite the innovation when it comes to your teachings and your wider messages, your wider visions, your aspirations could also very much transform. I think this is about rebellion, freedom, okay? Maybe this is about greater freedom even at work. Maybe this is about wanting more time to explore and to do your own research there to learn for yourself. Perhaps you will challenge the status quo a great deal with respect to certain legal matters, and Yeah, you could just decide to shake things up. And with that, then, because there is a bit of a square happening between the sixth and ninth houses in this way, we could see some upset or pushback, maybe ruffling a few feathers at work or amongst coworkers. Or we could see, of course, you seeking to connect with like minded individuals, seeking some kind of community, and how that will be about reaching further, wanting to use technology as a way to spread your message and your knowledge as a way to spread your wisdom with the world. But then again, it's this stuff that can challenge the everyday. It can challenge your routines and your everyday habits. So this is where we want to think about how these houses are Arcadian houses, right? They are Arcadian houses, and Arcadian houses are about readjustment. They're about readjustment, and they readjust what the succeeding houses materialized. So let's think of it this way. With Pluto being in a succeeding house, so in your 8th house for the past 16 years, well, things were certainly materialized in that maybe there was some kind of shared resource gain. There could have been gains through paying off debts, or maybe there was some sort of renewal or transformation tied to your business. Maybe it's that you sought after new business opportunities, or perhaps it's that you went through some kind of grieving process, or there was a loss. And of course, I just want to say too that with grief, it continues on, and I understand that. But I'm just saying that, loss could have been quite a big theme in your life. And perhaps too, it was a good opportunity for you to do a lot of research, for you to become more of a professional when it came to occult like matters, or when it came to some kind of just a subject matter that you wanted to research and look more into. Okay, a lot of exploring the depths. And maybe as well, a big part of this was you understanding why you do the things you do, and trying to assess and analyze your own psyche in this regard. So, with the Cunin houses now being activated, this is where we see some wiggle room, readjustment. You maybe having an opportunity to be flexible, right? Because naturally you are a mutable sign. So this is an opportunity for you to, I think, experiment a lot. It's an opportunity for you to see what works and what doesn't, to clear the path, to get rid of the fluff, to see which areas no longer serve you. And think about this in terms of health. Think about this in terms of your working lives and certain beliefs, even, right? Your belief systems. And then we want to think about how the 6th house is a house of substance, right? So it's part of the trinity of substance. And so this is where we're going to see more of the material stuff, the practical, everyday, mundane stuff being challenged by this 9th house, this trinity of energy house, where it's like, okay, what can I energetically, physically do? How much of my time, how much of my energy can I give here? And maybe this is where a lot of the readjustment's going to come into play, and where the all or nothing, going to extremes attitude, you may find will be really challenged during this transit. Maybe best to get out in front of it rather than to get caught up in a really sticky, possibly messy, turbulent situation later on. Maybe this is about greater willpower and strength when it comes to your health and your wellness there, Gemini. But hey, this could also be about inspiration. So what inspires you? What is the vision with the ninth house, right? It's the trinity, this trinity of energy. Yeah. What is the vision? This is about exploration. And naturally, this is about your meaning, your higher meaning. So, as I say, a lot of readjustments coming up here throughout the transit. Then to further add to this stuff, so when we think about how Scorpio is in the 6th and Pluto will be in the 9th, well, this is more of a Western Hemisphere thing. And when we look to the Western Hemisphere, a big part of this is about really others, okay? This is about being other focused, team focused. Maybe this is about realizing, Gemini, that you don't have to go through this journey alone, and maybe you don't want to. Maybe it is that there's this great twinkle in your eye. There's this great curiosity about, I want to see what other people have to offer. I want to connect with people, relate to people. So it is, I feel, it's going to be a good opportunity for you to be quite active about teams and communities there. Thank you so much, Gemini. And now we're going to move on to Cancer. Okay, Cancer. Let's explore you. Let's see what is happening when it comes to your Scorpio house as Pluto travels through your 8th house over the next 20 years. So, Scorpio resides in the 5th house and Aquarius resides in the 8th house in your chart. So, with Scorpio in the 5th house, we notice that you certainly transform when it comes to romance and love and connecting there with your children. So we think about you perhaps strongly transforming when you become a parent, or you changing in massive ways whenever you are in a role that includes children. This could even be, for example, teaching children. So that's just an example. But perhaps this is also about the ways in which you regenerate power when it comes to your creativity and your hobbies. You certainly show resilience, and there is, of course, a lot of self-mastery that happens with respect to your creativity. And naturally, there can be this all or nothing attitude. You can go to extremes when it comes to your creative projects. We also see here that there's just a genuine fascination in things that are more occult-like, or even thinking about horror stories or true crime things, right? So maybe there's some sort of entertainment there for you. There's that curiosity. But hey, on another note, this could just be about you being very focused, right? Being able to focus, being able to concentrate when it comes to the kinds of hobbies and interests you have, right? And you also tend to prefer trusting and emotional romantic relationships here as well, Cancer. You can be very loyal, very devoted people, and I do think that you're attracted to loyal and devoted partners too. Naturally, there can also be, as well, just to add intensities, some turbulence when it comes to partnerships, or should I say romantic relationships more so specifically. And there can be even levels of obsession and control and manipulation, these things. But we also see that you can experience these transformations where you seek or you not just seek, but you actually are able to establish more of those trusting, vulnerable connections too. Again, think about these transformations with respect to children you have, and also when it comes to any hobbies you have. So with Aquarius being in your 8th house and then Pluto traveling through the 8th, interesting, Cancer. We could see here then how by you transforming from the inside out, by you exploring your own psychology or trying to assess why you do the things you do, trying to assess the ways in which you show up within intimate relationships, right? Because this is the 8th house. By you doing this stuff, this can also impact and influence your romantic lives. This, for example, could be you and your significant other going for counseling. This could also be a case of you just going for therapy in some way, shape, or form, and that progress is very much shown within your romantic relationships. Of course, this could be a case of establishing that trust, that trustworthiness, that intimate connection further. Then again, because the 8th house is often seen as related to the other, maybe this is even your intimate partner, them having done and performed inner work. And then because of them performing that inner work, there is that greater safety and protection within relationships. And maybe because of that, then you decide, hey, we want to have a family, we want to have children. So whichever way this goes, I just think that it's quite interesting to me that the 5th house is so much about romance and love, and that even I would say more of a casual relationship to an extent too, right? With the 5th house could also be more of the dating stages as well. So I find it interesting that the 5th house rules this stuff, and then the 8th house takes things a step further. And I mean, really, it's about going deeper. It's about establishing more of an emotional bond and those deeper, intense feelings as well. So with this relationship between these houses, yes, it could be that there's some kind of progress, there's innovation, but hey, there could also be this breaking away, this possible divorce or separation, or realizing that you don't want to be with somebody anymore, which, hey, it's not necessarily a bad thing either. Perhaps as well, this could be about parenting. This could be about children. So how you and your partner parent your children, maybe there could be clashes in agreement. And possibly there could be clashes when it comes to shared resources there, right? With the 8th house being activated, there could be this rebellion or challenging each other, challenging one another when it comes to shared resources. Or, hey, this could also be a case of recognizing that, you know what, we haven't connected in a while. I don't feel like we're on the same page, or I would like to maybe go on more dates together. So trying to address the spark, so to speak, right? But I just want to take it away from intimacy and relationships for a moment and to think about this more from an individual perspective, because the 5th house is also about our ego. It's about our self-expression and our individuality. So we could see some ego breakthroughs with Pluto transiting the 8th. We could see some transformations related to your identity and your individuality. We could also see you having greater trust in your self-expression and your creativity. So your own unique way of being creative, you being very determined about that, and moving forward with this courage and this resilience as well. And hey, this could also be about you bringing your self-expression to that of the group. And because you've done a lot of inner work, you've looked within yourself, you've explored your own unconscious, your own shadow, then you may find that you shine brighter, so to speak. And what I mean by this is just you feel more confident. You feel more confident within yourself there. So when we move on slightly to these houses, so the 5th and 8th houses are succedent houses. So succeeding houses, they stabilize what the angular houses started. So we want to think about how Pluto has been transiting your 7th house for the past 16 years, Cancer. So we want to then consider what really was started, what came up for you. Were these renewals and transformations to do with relationships and partnerships, thinking about commitment, thinking about integrity, being disciplined, addressing the foundations and structures when it came to business partnerships, clients, customers, making sure that you were not cutting corners and things like that, you weren't deceiving people, things like that. So a lot of the groundwork there, I suppose you could say, when it came to relationships and clients and partnerships, we could look at this as business naturally too. So Pluto is then coming into the 8th house, and it's within this trinity of emotions house. It's part of that. The 8th house is part of the trinity of emotion. So we're going to see here then you maybe stabilizing what was started in the 7th. So we could look at this, for example, as you gaining some kind of respect or acknowledgement for the hard work that you've done, for the foundation that you've laid. Or this could be about you reaching out to investors or wanting to get some kind of loan, paying off debts, and making sure that you're on top of those things. But the thing is that you reach out for these resources, so to speak, because it's for your business. It's for the partnership, for partnership reasons. It's for agreement reasons. But then we could also look at this as, because so much has came up with respect to relationships, you finally decide, you know what, I am going to go and I'm going to seek some kind of assistance, or I'm going to do more inner work here, or I'm going to address the things about myself that I find difficult to access. And, those things could be about, those Aquarius themes of maybe exploring your differentness, your uniqueness. Maybe a part of it is about detachment in some way, shape, or form. And then, of course, this energy is making that square to an energy house, the 5th house. And this is part of the trinity of energy, basically. So I think this is what I was trying to suggest earlier, a lot of the inner work stuff can naturally help with the self-expression stuff and confidence. I just think a lot of this is about your confidence. Furthermore, when we look to this information, well, it's the Western hemisphere that is being activated. So a lot of this is about others. Being team focused. This is about the ways in which you act within relationships. And if you can hear my stomach growling, just because I'm hungry, I apologize. But yes, with the Western hemisphere, we want to think about how these transformations that you're going to experience will have something to, they will relate basically to that of teamwork and relationships, being other focused. Thank you so much, Cancer. Now we're going to move on to Leo. Okay, so Leo, what does this Scorpio house have to do with you? So Scorpio resides in the 4th house for you, and then Aquarius resides in the 7th house. Whenever we look to your Scorpio house in the 4th, Leo, we do notice some pretty heavy energy here. Okay, we see times whenever you have had to fight for your survival, times whenever you have had to shield yourself and protect yourself from others, especially family members. I'm going to say that. And we also see here the intensities and the turbulence that often presents itself within your family dynamics. But, we could also look at this as your family lineage being that of, well, people who are very determined, very loyal, certainly know how to commit and to protect. We also notice this great desire and this devotion that happens when it comes to establishing a home. We also see here for you, Leo, that it's important for you to trust people fully before you are vulnerable, before you really share private information or, pretty vulnerable information about yourself. And we also see here that you can be very resilient in terms of your emotional security, and you have shown many times great courage and strength, which is quite interesting because you as a sign, Leo, very, very courageous. But I feel as if this is where we notice your grit, right? And we also see here with you this ability to explore the unconscious, to explore your shadow, to really look beneath the surface. You may be horrified at times by the actions of others or by certain things that you recognize within yourself. And again, when it comes to others, I mean this in terms of family. Maybe you're even often shocked or taken aback by secrets that come up, right? The truth is revealed after all when it comes to Scorpio. So with Aquarius in the 7th house and Pluto traveling through this 7th house for you, we of course could see that it's almost as if your family relationships are going to be strongly influenced by the changes that you make within your one-on-one relationships. We could also see how your very living situation could change due to you connecting with like minds, due to you reaching out into your communities. Maybe this is also about rebellion and freedom, maybe breaking away from a not so healthy family dynamic, family situation. Or this could be about you perhaps feeling more empowered, okay? Feeling a lot more empowered about your path within your relationships and partnerships. And then again, it's almost like you transform then from the inside out. It's your emotions that really change. It's your feelings about people that really change. And of course, this could be about you establishing closer, more trustworthy relationships too. But it's also about being able to say, hey, no, this is my boundary. I don't want this. This is not for me. So there's some how do I say, there's some energy that says, I will not tolerate that kind of behavior. I will not let it into my life. And there's also this energy of challenging the status quo within relationships and partnerships. But you see, the thing is that these houses, they are angular houses, and there is a bit of this square between them. So firstly, the 4th house is this angular house that, it depends, I suppose, on the chart system you use, etc. But we could look at this as your emotional identity or your inner identity, your family identity as well with the fourth house. And then the seventh house is more about your relationship identity. So this is where we could see some of the clashes, tension, resistance, possible power struggles, because this does involve Pluto too. So whether this be certain family members not approving of your significant other, or this could be a decision that you and your spouse make within a relationship, and then again, certain family members, it doesn't sit well with them. Or this could be a case of there being some kind of loss or grievance to do with family. And so that can, of course, have serious impacts on your relationship. Or, of course, this could be vice versa, right? Where I'm really not trying to say this to scare you or to make you think, oh my goodness, someone's going to pass away or anything like that. But this could be, for example, some kind of grievance or loss to do with a relationship. Doesn't have to be your spouse. Of course, this could relate to business, or it could even be the loss of a business itself, right? But yes, it could be a business partner as another example. But whatever the grievance, there's still that emotional upset, that emotional turbulence with that Scorpio house. But then we could also look at this as, we could maybe look at it as you being determined and devoted to your significant other, right? So for instance, if it is that they lose someone they love, you really show up for them, or vice versa, they show up for you. Okay, but hey, I think this is about being in it as a team. Let's be team players here. This could also involve friendships and groups and wider networks, of course, because the Aquarius house is being influenced or impacted too. Now, the seventh house is also part of the trinity of socializing, and then the fourth house is part of the trinity of emotions. So this is where we're going to see some of the perhaps challenges to do with how you process emotions, how you talk about them. Maybe this is where I would say here, it's where it's perhaps quite important to hopefully not bottle things up, Leo. If it is that there's a situation that does involve loss. Now, again, it doesn't have to be a person. This could be more of a business thing. This could also be more about an agreement or a contract that you thought was going to be long lasting and then it's not anymore. Whatever the case, I just think it's important not to bottle things up and to keep things to yourself, especially in a suppressive way where you suppress certain emotions. But then again, hey, you know what? It could also be a case of your own way of coping. And I get that too. Okay, so we also then want to think about here the Western Hemisphere is being activated. And then we also see these angular houses being activated. Well, sorry, let me repeat that. We see this quadrant, right? This second quadrant being activated, and those houses 4, 5, and 6 are more about refinement, the refinement of your personality. So I think a lot of this is about your health. A lot of this is about how you express yourself and your individuality. And then naturally with the Western Hemisphere, this is where we see others coming into the equation. I just think in this way, Leo, you may find that you truly transform when it comes to how you relate, how you connect with other people. But of course, that can really influence and shape your own personality and, well, your individuality in a lot of ways too. And just to further add to this quickly, so if we go back just a moment, with the angular houses, they are about starting something new. But when we think about how Pluto has been in your 6th house for the past 16 years, this is where we've noticed some readjustments. We've seen changes to do with your everyday routines and habits. We've seen changes to your working lives. And I mean changes where maybe you've really been forced to change things, or it's that you've shown such determination, such willpower and strength, and you've been really resilient, especially thinking about things you want to build, things that you want to establish for the long haul there too, Leo. But of course, with Pluto then entering the 7th, we could see you carrying over some of those skills, right? The skills that you've refined, you could carry over those skills into that of how you show up within relationships too. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Virgo. Thank you so much, Leo. Okay, so Virgo, what is happening for you with the Scorpio house as Pluto travels through Aquarius? Well, Scorpio resides in the 3rd house for you, and then Aquarius resides in the 6th house. So with Scorpio in your 3rd house, we see here, Virgo, that you truly transform when it comes to your mindset, your mental health, your education, the way that you present and deliver information tends to really change with time and, of course, with effort. We see on your part self-mastery with respect to communication as well, Virgo. And we also see here that you may feel very deeply, very intensely about the relationship that you have with your siblings or with cousins or with your close with your classmates or childhood friends there, okay? And maybe it's that you've even experienced some kind of loss. So perhaps one of your classmates or one of your siblings have actually passed away. Maybe as well, there's just a lot of intensity there, intense relationships. You could also really clash, right? You could clash when it comes to agreements with these people. And we also see here that, well, we see here that when it comes to your local neighborhood, your local area, yes, there can be some fears. There can be difficulties and challenges related to vulnerability within these areas. But there's also an opportunity or many opportunities for you to transform and maybe to establish greater trust in those around you and to communicate from a place of trust. I do think that you tend to be quite mindful of what you share with others, right? You could be mindful in terms of your privacy, but just as much you can be quite cutthroat. You can be cutthroat when it comes to certain words that you say, especially if you feel like you're being attacked or if you feel like you need to defend others, right? I even see this as you being very defensive when it comes to your siblings, really wanting to protect your siblings, fiercely so there. We could see significant changes to do with your health, to do with your mental health especially. Think about how often you can fixate or you can ruminate there. So we could see some kind of progression or change for the better, hopefully, there with Pluto in the 6th. We could also see here you seeking to connect with like minds, to really relate to people within your communities and your teams and your groups. And we want to think about how these teams and groups are located within your work. Okay, so your working life, even when we think about any communities you're a part of, in terms of the internet, social media, we could also look at this in terms of just you sharing your services. Okay, so the services that you provide. So yes, there could be new trust, establishing greater trust there, and communicating what's on your heart, what's in your heart, or communicating from a place of I am being vulnerable, or I am opening up with someone who actually cares about me and they're not going to use information against me, or what I share with them against me. But we could also look at this as use discernment, of course, because there is a bit of that square between the third and the sixth. So there could be some kind of challenge or tension to do with coworker communication, coworker conversations. Maybe as well, this is about certain clashes in agreement, especially when it comes to the ways in which you do your work or how you perform, thinking about how you perform your everyday tasks, your routines, and your schedules. So, yes, there could be some kind of power struggle there, especially power struggles between you and siblings, right? So, for example, this could be certain siblings or cousins or even certain friends in your life not really agreeing with the work that you do, or agreeing with a certain routine or habit of yours. Or this could even be about you breaking away from certain ways of communicating. You're like, I don't want to communicate like that anymore. I don't think like that anymore. And so because of that, you may find that certain relationships, they come to a close, right? You just don't really connect. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just sort of thinking, I don't really align with them anymore, or our priorities are not the same. So yes, there could be some sort of adjustment there, change. There could be changes there to these relationships, but naturally, because of changes to your routines or your working life, maybe this is where we notice different people being ushered in, right? We could even see, for example, you changing neighborhoods, you relocating, okay? So you literally do move house, you move to a different area, a different city. And because of that, then there's new people, right? There's new people to talk to, new people to meet and greet, stuff like that. And as well, just to think here with the routine stuff, the health stuff, maybe because you do focus on self-care, because you do focus more on your health and your wellness, your well-being. This is also where we see the adjustments and the transitions to do with communication as well, right? And then that may be a part of you not relating or connecting so much with certain people, if you understand. Then here's the thing. These are the cadent houses. Okay, so sixth and third houses are cadent houses. So we see here that cadent houses, they readjust what the succeeding houses materialize. So what has been materializing within your fifth house, right? Fifth house, succeeding house, Pluto has been transiting that house for the past 16 years. We have been noticing, oh my goodness, how you've matured. You have matured so much, Virgo, when it comes to committed relationships. Especially committing to a project, committing to a creative pursuit in some way, shape, or form. We could see how your romantic relationships have changed in huge ways. And a lot of this is about doing the inner work, addressing your shadow, addressing your unconscious. We also notice the changes to do with the relationship that you have with your children, or your attitudes toward having children. So there's greater maturity on your part there as well. And overall, just really looking at how your foundations and your views have transformed over these past 16 years to do with hobbies, children, romance, just as a few different examples. So we come into the sixth house, and then we notice that maybe you will come to a point where it is about, I need to think about my health as the number one priority. I need to pour into myself. I need to think about my routines and my habits and just making sure that things are aligning more with me there, aligning more with my visions and my hopes and my dreams. And then the other thing about this is you can bring over the lessons, right? You can bring over lessons of discipline and integrity. Bring that stuff over into the sixth house and maybe apply that discipline that you have really refined and refine it even more and bring it into that of your working life and your services. And then we also notice that this is a square between the sixth house and the third, in that the third is a part of the trinity of the sixth is a part of the trinity of substance. So that's about material, matter. This is about as well the everyday stuff, the mundane, the everyday practical stuff, getting things done. So there's that clash with this third house, which is a part of the trinity of socializing. So again, it kind of just highlights again. Yeah, it just kind of highlights the, okay, I am making a decision here that I don't want to engage in this conversation. I don't want to go over this discussion again. It's not for me. It's not healthy for me. I don't like it. I don't want to be around this person anymore. There could be some sort of resistance there, power struggles there. But again, maybe a big part of this is making your health a priority. Could also be some sort of clashes and tension to do with the ways you get from A to B. So thinking about vehicles, transportation, how you travel to work. Maybe there are major transitions and renewals to do with your working life and also how you get to work. If it is that you do travel to work, but of course, if it is that you work from home, again, there could be clashes in schedules, clashes in routines there. Technology could even be a big issue as well with the squares, but this can also be where you step up to the challenge, right? With squares, we can step up to that Mars-like quality and we can say, yes, okay, what do I need to learn? How can I overcome this? What's the solution? And with Keaton houses, this is also about some adjustments. You can make adjustments, and you, of course, are this mutable sign. So hopefully you can be open to some sort of change there so that things can work out in a much more functional, just operational way. Smoother, hopefully, for you, Virgo. Then lastly, we see that this energy is in the northern hemisphere. So actually, a lot of this stuff, okay, that I have discussed so far, it's more so about your private life. This is about maybe keeping to yourself a bit more. Maybe this is also about your own personal development and changes that you wish to make there. Last thing I want to say actually as well, just as a reminder that as we follow Pluto, we also want to think about the other ruler of Scorpio, which is Mars. So follow Mars throughout the Pluto and Aquarius transit. Mars then will provide information about your willpower and your strength and your energy levels, of course, throughout the next 20 years. I would go into Mars, but that would take a very, very long time. But just as a quick reminder, explore the cycles of Mars as well, because of course Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio and will have something to say about the Scorpio house. Thank you, Virgo. Now on to Libra. Okay, Libra, so what is in store for you when it comes to your Scorpio house as Pluto travels through your fifth house over the next 20 years? Okay, so Scorpio resides in your second house, Libra. So you tend to transform quite a bit when it comes to your self-esteem and your self-worth. I think even a big key thing to remember for you is that your possessions and your materials do not define you. They do not equivalent to your self-worth. You may find that throughout your life, Libra, you can really fluctuate, or you can go to extremes when it comes to materials and possessions and your finances. So there could be times whenever you really latch on to your finances and your resources, as an example, but then there can also be times when you really have to just let go and go through the transformation, go through the loss. Even what's coming to my mind here is cutting your losses and heading off into a new territory. Perhaps even this is about addressing your fears, right? Addressing your fears and your unconscious, your shadow related to, well, the relationship that you have with money, the relationship that you have with spending it, earning it. And you can actually be quite protective, quite protective of your resources there too. Plus, we do see resilience and self-mastery, Libra. There can be this kind of determination that you show, this devotion that you show, and strength, courage to do with earning money. And maybe this is about earning a lot of it, or managing a lot of money, or this is even about money coming to you, right? This could be some kind of inheritance, or people literally giving money to you, or this could be about you coming into money because of a relationship, because of a business deal, a business contract or agreement, or because you get married, right? So you can marry into money. So these are just different examples, but still, with Scorpio in the second house, this is where we see the trust that needs to be established, right? This trust, and possibly even addressing your own vulnerabilities when it comes to this financial relationship. But then too, I would say this is about addressing your trust with respect to your self-worth. And hey, we could also look at this in terms of sharing your skills, sharing your gifts with the world. There could be some fears, hesitation when it comes to sharing your skills and your gifts. But Scorpio serves as a reminder that you can do this. It's time to be courageous, Libra. And you also may really grow in your resilience when you do so. But you see, with Pluto then transiting your fifth house, we could see some significant changes to do with, for example, children. So if, for example, you have children or you have a child during this transit as Pluto moves through your fifth house, well, the kind of relationship that you have with your children, or the ways in which your children are, these things can naturally impact your self-worth, can also impact your survival needs, your finances. So there could be even some fears to do with finances there, or having to be protective of your finances, especially as a way to provide for your children. So that is one example. But we could also look at this through a lens of you pursuing a creative pursuit. Okay, you decide to pursue some sort of creative project or a passion. It's this passion, it's the strong interest that you have. And so you may need money for that, right? You may need some resources to help you. Maybe this is about you investing, or this is about you seeking financial advice, or looking to your spouse, or looking to a partner as a way to either assist you, or because you need to be very clear about your intentions there. Now, another possibility here could be that when it comes to your hobbies and your creativity, these things are also tied to innovation, experimentation, community, and connecting with like minds. So there can be a lot of determination and ambition on your part. There could also be rebellion and freedom So this could be a case of you breaking away, breaking free, wanting to do your own thing. Maybe this is even about you standing up for your individuality and your self-expression and the ego. The ego comes into this. But we could also look at this as you breaking away from a particular, it could be a romantic relationship. And so what happens because of this is, yes, your finances could be quite rocky or shaky for a bit, but then it's about you rebuilding or you restarting or you, well, transforming, right? It's still about that progress and that change. But still, with the group aspect coming into this, the friendship, the community aspect coming into this with relation to your hobbies and your interests, perhaps you may find that as you move towards such hobbies and you connect with like minds, it's even your self-worth that can transform, right? Or it's the ways in which you share your gifts and talents that can transform. And I think even this is about trust again. Trust. Trusting in others, trusting that your uniqueness, it shines through Libra. So then what we want to think about is, yes, there is this square, okay? There is this square aspect between these two signs. So this is the 5th house and the 2nd house. These are succeeding houses. And we could see, of course, some challenge and tension and struggle. Power struggles could come into this with Pluto. So an example of this, I suppose this could just be me repeating a bit of what I previously said, but this example could be you stepping into your personal power, so to speak, when it comes to your individuality. And then because of that, a certain romantic relationship comes to a close or it ends essentially. And then you having to fend for yourself, if you will, or you having to think about, right, my resources, my physical security, what do I need here? Or when we think about this through a lens of your children, if you have children, maybe this is a case of you pouring a lot of your energy into your children. And there is so much intimacy involved in that, of course. And vulnerability too. You may even find that it's your own inner child that is strongly influenced by the relationship that you have with your children, or you recognizing them, they're growing. And so a lot comes up from within you too. Again, this stuff could then influence your self-esteem, your self-worth. Or hey, this could be a case of a hobby or a creative project generating you money. Okay, there could be some income there happening, right? But it is still about being mindful of how you budget, because that square can still suggest some kind of tension. But hey, when it comes to squares, we can step up to the challenge. And so in the case of you, Libra, this could be about you stepping up to the challenge by being determined and quite devoted. Now, we also want to think about how with the succeedent houses, they stabilize what the angular houses started. So Pluto has been transiting your 4th house for the past 16 years. So a lot of transformation and renewal to do with family, your living situation, your home life there, addressing the past, addressing any emotional blockages, suppression, things like that, even addressing your own shadow there when it comes to your emotions and any compulsions as well. So maybe you can carry forward lessons related to these areas, carry those lessons forward. And then maybe those lessons can assist you with your children, or they can assist you when it comes to your creativity or how you express yourself. And the other thing is, this is essentially this 5th house, which is part of the trinity of energy, and then the 2nd house, which is part of the trinity of substance. So yes, this could be a case of new inspiration and feeling energized, feeling quite strongly about, well, and also determined about the things that you want to create. And there's all these new visions and these hopes and these wishes for the future, all the rest of it. A lot of passion is involved here. But it's also about how this stuff can clash with your resources, with your finances, your security. So in this regard, maybe there is a part of it where you could use some of your resources as a way to help you succeed in some way when it comes to a new creative project, right? So that is just an example. But again, maybe it is about having to be somewhat methodical and just plan things out a bit. Plan things out. Consider what your options are there, Libra. And to further add to this stuff is happening in the northern hemisphere. So a lot of this is about your own personal world, your privacy, introspection, and a lot of this is to do with your own personal development too. Okay, we're now going to move on to Scorpio. Thank you so much, Libra. All right, so then we're going to move on to Scorpio. Well, Scorpio, the Scorpio house for you is, of course, in the first. So much about you coming up, your identity, the self. And then Aquarius sits in the fourth house. So with Scorpio in the first house, we notice that, well, your identity transforms a great deal throughout your life. You go through major transitions and renewals. And there's also this instinctive way that you probe, that you look beneath the surface. You also value trust and honesty over anything else. And you would rather people just tell you the truth. Even if the truth hurts, you'd rather just hear it. Then the other thing here, Scorpio, is that you can be very devoted. And whenever you have a goal in mind, you can be extremely determined and you will fight for the things that you want to achieve. You can also show a lot of resilience and strength. So the things that do challenge you and test you, you can be very strong-willed and determined in the face of those things. Of course, you're also a sign of self-mastery. So a lot of this is about mastering your own emotions, being able to follow things through until completion because of your ability to master your emotions. And you may also find that your life can really go to extremes. You can live your life like that. Plus, of course, with you, the intensities, right? Where you can be very passionate people. But of course, there can also be turbulence. There's the turbulence. There can be losses, downfalls, collapses, urgent matters. But just as much, you can rise. You can rise like the phoenix and you can overcome and you can show that strength and courage in the face of adversity. You're certainly the type of sign that will fight for your survival. So with Pluto then transiting the fourth, it's very interesting to see because, of course, Aquarius is there, and with Pluto entering there, a lot of this fighting for survival then will be about your family, your home life, your living situation. This is also where we're going to see you challenging the status quo when it comes to family, when it comes to your living situation. Maybe you deciding that you want to do your own thing, really standing up for what is true for you, a lot of your own uniqueness, your own individuality. But this could also be about progress and innovation with relation to your home life. Even thinking here about how you can be very ambitious and determined. People, of course, you can already be like this, but we're going to see a lot of this ambition and this determination being poured into that of your living situation, whether this be that you want to relocate, you want to buy a house, you want to move house, You don't want to be in a certain area anymore. You want to move out of that area. This could also be a case of you deciding to live with friends or within more of a community. You know, the living situation is more about community and teamwork and groups there. Or this could be just you thinking outside of the box, right? Coming up with your own ideas, being quite original, connecting with like minds. Perhaps too, a part of this is even considering how you relate to other people emotionally. And you may find that actually to be quite the challenge because these houses do square each other, right? So when we further address this, the first house, of course, the first house and the fourth house, they are angular houses, but the first house is more about your self-identity. And the fourth house is more about your family identity. So there could be some clashes in agreement when it comes to yourself versus your family. Whether this be you deciding that you want to do your own thing amongst your family, or you want to break away from a certain family dynamic or a living situation, you want to break away from it. And then maybe there's some resistance or people get annoyed at you for putting yourself first. Or this could be about your identity changing and that being quite overwhelming, jarring. There could be some shock factor. And naturally, the shock factor could be tied in with family relationships, family dynamics. Plus, we could see here with more of this square aspect, yes, we could also recognize this strength on your part, right? Because with squares, they do have a Mars-like quality to them. So there could be tension and conflict and disagreement, but there could also be this standing your ground sort of energy or standing up for what you believe to be right, doing the right thing in your eyes, standing up for humanity or standing up for a family member. Maybe that's even a big part of it. This is about protecting your family, and I mean fiercely. This is about cutting off certain ways that maybe you used to relate to people, and you go, no more, I'm not going to tolerate that. I don't want that for my child. I don't want that for my family or my spouse or whatever have you there. And naturally, then there is that challenging energy, right? Challenging what is said to be quote unquote normal when it comes to family relationships. And fairness naturally is a big part of this, right? So seeking fairness. Now, the first house here is part of the trinity of energy. And then the fourth house is part of the trinity of emotion. So with this sort of square influence, there could be times whenever you feel energetically depleted or emotionally depleted. We could see some tension to do with your physical body. So I would even just suggest here, if it is that you can feel emotions are running very high, especially with intensity there. We think about you and how you can be very intense people. If you feel as if this stuff is especially coming from family or it's related to family, you can feel yourself getting really stressed, or you see that your family are becoming really stressed. Maybe this is where it's important to, I suppose this could be a bit of a theme with Pluto and Aquarius, to practice the art of detachment. And this isn't about, detachment is not about not feeling emotion. It's just more about being able to recognize that you're the one who's in control of your emotions and how you react, basically, I think is more of the better way to put it. You're in control of how you react and how you take action based on your emotions, basically. So hopefully you can step back and go, nope, not going to give into that drama. I'm not going to give this person what they're wanting from me in terms of maybe people want you to react. You're like, I'm not doing it. So there's just a lot here to do with the mastery of your emotions. But it's also, I think, about being able to communicate your emotions too in a healthy way, right? To maybe even if it is that you are struggling or that there's a lot going on for you internally, hopefully you can gain some sort of assistance or help or feedback. Could be from someone who's quite close to you or from someone who is more of a professional, of course, but still, this is about your identity. This is about your body, taking care of your body and your energy. Okay, your energy, your fire, your passion, and movement. My goodness. The other thing then, of course, with this is if it is that you are a Scorpio, and I know that you can be like this where you can act like everything is fine and you don't want to go there, etc. And I get it as well. We all have different ways of coping, but if it does appear as if, throughout this transit that things become too overwhelming for you, if you find yourself repeating these same cycles, or you're giving in to certain compulsions, things like that, this is where I think it will be important for you to really step back and go, hold on a minute, is this healthy for me? Is this good for me? Yes. But hey, on a more positive note, we could see this as you feeling the spark, feeling the passion to get things moving, right? To make things happen when it comes to your family, to your home, to your living situation, you being determined, you following things through to completion. Oof, yes, indeed. We could really see great loyalty on your part. Great resilience, Scorpio. And naturally, the other thing is so I did mention that the first and the fourth houses are angular houses, but these houses then reside within this first quadrant. So this really is about your development, your identity, the self. This is so much about the self, establishing a self. And I suppose in this way, a lot of this is about you being able to make yourself a huge priority as you do go after your family goals, or as you do experience transformations related to family and your living situation. And then the other thing is, this stuff is happening in the northern hemisphere. So with the northern hemisphere, again, this is primarily about introspection, privacy. Okay, maybe it's that you're really going to consider your private world a lot more throughout the transit. A couple of other things I just want to mention is the angular houses, they are about starting, right? There's this initiation process that happens, but we think about how Pluto, which Pluto is one of your chart rulers, or well, one of your rulers, because I know not everybody watching this is a Scorpio rising, but Pluto, with being one of your rulers, was in the 12th house. My apologies, the third house was in the third house for the past 16 years. So that could have brought up a lot of readjustment and learning, flexibility in some respects, to do with your education, to do with a certain subject matter, maybe about wanting to be disciplined, self-mastery related to your learning there as well. We think about communicating from a place of greater authority on your part, so you can carry over these lessons into this Pluto and Aquarius transit in the fourth, where you can speak with integrity, where you can really communicate your words effectively, and how that can even come through toward family members, for example. Last thing I want to say then for you is Mars, right? So Mars is the other ruler. It's your traditional ruler. You want to follow Mars throughout this transit. Just Mars can add more to the story. Mars can show up as your willpower, your strength. It can show up as your energy more there. And it can show up as your goals. So yes, follow the cycles of Mars throughout the transit. Thank you so much, Scorpio. And now we're going to move on to Sagittarius. Okay, moving on to Sagittarius. What can you expect from this Pluto and Aquarius transit? So how the transit relates to your 12th house, your Scorpio house. So Scorpio resides within the 12th house for you, and Aquarius resides in the 3rd house. So with Scorpio in your 12th house, Sagittarius, we do see that behind the scenes, you can be very intense people. We also notice that you can keep a lot in. You can certainly bottle things up, or you can repress certain emotions. But we also see here that you can be such devoted and determined people. Whenever you really tap in to your Scorpio energy, you can certainly use that as a way to succeed, as a way to achieve. And we also see for you that you're very fascinated in things that are hidden. You may tend to explore the unconscious, or you may even be very much in tune with your own shadow. Shadow work could be a big part of this for you, Sagittarius. You may even probe greatly into that of your unconscious and really focus on your dreams and symbolism and mythology and things like that. There's just, even underneath the surface, so much desire on your part. And we also see for you that there is a lot of strength, a lot of courage within. Naturally, the thing about the 12th is it can look at our self-undoing. So maybe something that you have had to address within yourself is that any times that you can be manipulative or vengeful or cunning, deceitful, these things can lead to your self-undoing. We also notice for you that there could be some having to address self-sabotaging, self-destructive behaviors and attitudes, which again could be unconscious. You may not recognize that you are sabotaging, that you are being destructive. But again, through that self-awareness or through that analysis, maybe you come to work with this energy, to maybe even integrate it a little bit and to see it perhaps more in a positive light. Of course, this is you, Sagittarius. But yes, we could also see for you here that there are some hidden gifts, hidden talents to do with investigation and research and looking beneath, right? Being able to explore what's beneath the surface, to be quite probing. Yeah, there's some hidden gifts there, which again, you can integrate and you can bring out. Then, with Pluto transiting the 3rd house in Aquarius, so Aquarius is in the 3rd house, we could see for you, Sagittarius, naturally, transformations related to your mindset, related to your communication. Maybe this is about you overcoming certain fears to do with communication. So maybe on an unconscious level, there are certain things that you are fearful of, but Pluto almost will act as more of a conscious body. You can become aware basically of those things, and you can go, hold on a second, why am I doing this? Why am I reacting this way? Why am I giving this person my attention? Could also be a case of you more so aligning yourself with like-minded people and really asking other people questions, probing into their experience, so to speak, wanting to connect within communities, wanting to innovate when it comes to social media, wanting to progress in some way, shape, or form when it comes to these relationships as well. Sharing knowledge, my goodness, seeking fairness, and just this togetherness. We're getting this togetherness attitude and challenging the status quo as well when it comes to communication. So with the square aspect, of course, there could be some challenges to do with vulnerability. Maybe challenges because it's like, oh, I don't want to be seen as weak. I don't want people to use this information against me. I am afraid of the ramifications if I say this thing. But this is not necessarily a bad thing, because you can address those fears, right? So this could be, for instance, you having a heart to heart, you getting to the bottom of a situation, getting to the root cause of a situation with a friend, a sibling, a cousin. This could be a really good opportunity to open up, right? To get it out, to talk about it, to explore the unconscious, to explore your fears, to explore the things that hold you back. And you may not realize that that's what's happening. You can explore any self-destructive habits or tendencies there, and then you can look toward the future, right? You can go, hey, you know what? I feel like I'm supported by other people. Actually, I recognize that a lot of people struggle with this as well, and I'm not alone in this. So yeah, there could be major transitions there, but this could also be a spiritual thing, right? So this could be sharing in community about certain spiritual practices or wanting to involve yourself within spiritual groups. But again, I just can't help but think that this is still about you pushing through anything that holds you back, anything that can find you in this regard, and having the courage, okay, having the strength to go, actually, people care. People are compassionate. People are being honest with me. I can trust these people. And of course, maybe this is about establishing trust in general. Okay, this is about some kind of emotional bonding. And you could find that, a lot of intensities come up to the surface. Maybe there could be conflict, there could be tension, but hey, that's okay, right? There could be disagreements, and maybe those disagreements are rooted in something much deeper. But maybe it's also recognizing that you can't control the outcomes. You can't control other people and their perspectives and their opinions, but you can listen, Well, to an extent. I mean, if it is that thing, the behavior of others is not respectful, then you can also remove yourself from the situation. Of course, we also want to think about context, how the things can show up within a situation. But anyway, yes, there's this opportunity to learn and to grow, to listen, and to maybe even change your perspectives about siblings, right? The way that you relate to your siblings, or the way that you relate to your classmates or your childhood friends, things could very well change because of the inner work that you do. Okay. And maybe too, another part of this, on a more practical level, maybe another part of this is about your neighborhood, some sort of familiarity with certain neighbors, or trust in certain neighbors, or communicating within your neighborhood in a new way, in a new light, again, because of the inner work that you perform. Now, whenever we look to these houses, so these are the cadent houses, the 3rd house and the 12th house. So the cadent houses are about readjustment. So they readjust what the succeeding houses materialized. With Pluto being in your 2nd house over the past 16 years, a lot has been materializing when it came to things like your resources, your security. Of course, there were also transformations and a lot of change there, but maybe a big priority, a big focus on you, a big part of your determination was about addressing your earnings and being mindful of budgets and spending and all the rest of it. Even thinking about how your self-worth has really shifted and transformed over the past 16 years. So you can carry those lessons forward into how you communicate, actually, how you communicate your ideas in a unique way, in a way that's kind of outside of the box or quite refreshing to many people. Even if people think you're weird or strange for your way of doing things, you're like, I don't care, okay? I'm gonna communicate the way I want to communicate. And again, this could be about connecting with like minds. And then when we also consider how the 3rd house is tied to the trinity of socializing and the 12th is tied to the trinity of emotions, this is where we could see some intensities and frustrations to do with socializing. You know, it could be that people just really bug you, right? People within your neighborhood, people within your local area really bug you. Things that your siblings are saying, things that your classmates are saying, you're just like, oh, you feel intensely, you're so annoyed, you're so upset. Maybe even a big part of this is going behind the scenes, releasing a lot of emotion, just letting it out, processing emotions as well is a big part of this. Yeah, there could just be the intense, strong feelings that come up to the surface because of a certain thing that is said, or maybe whenever you can sense that someone isn't being very honest or truthful with you. But again, I think this is where you can take things behind the scenes, just privacy, right? Your own space. You can have your privacy and just go over it. Or you can even, remember that you can address those things directly. Have a conversation about it. Talk about it. Be vulnerable. So this is where we're going to see maybe a lot to do with trust and vulnerability and opening up for you, Sagittarius. And when we further look at where the houses are, so the Eastern Hemisphere. The Eastern Hemisphere is being activated here. So a lot of this stuff is about self-motivation, is about being action-oriented. This is about the way that you drive forward, the way that you seek to make things happen, and being quite strong-willed. Lastly, just as a quick reminder here, I've been saying this for a few signs, but with Mars also being the traditional ruler of Scorpio, you want to follow Mars throughout this transit. Just follow the cycle of Mars for more information about your willpower and about the ways in which you go after your goals, and even thinking about Mars through a lens of passion there too, and movement. So yes, follow Mars too for more information. Thank you so much, Sagittarius. Now we're going to move on to Capricorn. Okay, Capricorn. So moving on to you, what does Pluto in Aquarius have to say about your Scorpio house over the next 20 years? So Scorpio resides in your 11th house, and then Aquarius resides in your 2nd house. So what we can see here for you with Scorpio in the 11th is that you tend to be quite mindful about the kinds of people you surround yourself with. I certainly see this as you being highly selective, somewhat cautious about the kinds of groups you join, teams you're a part of, movements, causes you join, all this sort of thing. I think that you tend to look beneath the surface and you will do your own research. You will investigate things to a great extent before you decide to maybe join a certain community or join a certain group, right? Or a club. And whenever you do join a group or a club, I think that you can be very determined people and committed people. I think that you can go all in, and perhaps you can even go to extremes to some extent where you're very all or nothing. Okay. And maybe trust is such a big part of this. It's like you need to be able to trust another person or a group of people fully. Maybe as well, you can be very devoted, devoted to a cause, devoted to a movement, devoted to a friendship. And I think too, emotional bonds is a big part of this. So to connect, to relate on a more emotional level. We also see that you transform a great deal when it comes to friendships and groups and teams, organizations and companies, right? So you may find that you spend some time within a certain company or an organization where maybe you are building things from the ground up, or you're making things happen, you're being disciplined as you are, Capricorn. But then you can also just go, hey, I've outgrown this place. It's not for me anymore. I'm changing direction. I don't really agree with this here. And this could also be where you are forced to move, right? There could be something that happens outside of your control, and so you're still led down a different path, and that still involves a transformation in some way, shape, or form. Okay. You could also possibly break the rules from time to time. And I know it's quite interesting to think about when it's your sign, because you are this sign, Capricorn, that's all about tradition and rules, etc. But I think at the same time, if you notice that there is unfairness, that people are being treated with disrespect, or that, certain groups of people are not being treated well, especially when we think about how this stuff comes into organizations and teams, then you can be very strong in your views and sort of go, that's not right. I'm not putting up with that. You could certainly stand your ground there, Capricorn. Okay. We also then want to think about protection, right? You're going to protect yourself to an extent. Okay. So with Pluto then transiting the second house for you, what does this have to say? What does this have to tell us? When we think about Aquarius in the second, I mean, this is about innovation and progress when it comes to your resources and your physical security. Pluto here then could be this influence of transformation and being forced to change something about your financial position, and maybe wanting to generate more money or greater power, so to speak. And I mean that in a positive light. Maybe this is about your personal power. This is even about you wanting to rebel in some way, shape, or form, or to seek greater financial freedom. Maybe we're also going to see you being very ambitious and determined when it comes to your resources, wanting to sort of rebuild your life, to start over again, or to even carry forward the lessons that you have learned as Pluto has been transiting your first house, So thinking about how your life has transformed and really changed when it comes to your identity and your approach to life. Your aims and your goals have really changed because you've been tested so much. Your strength, your discipline, these things have been tested greatly. But you see, yes, Pluto was in an angular house, but now Pluto comes into a succeeding house, and this then... So with the succeeding houses, this is about stabilizing what the angular houses started. So this could be about, right, I want to try to gain a sense of my resources and my finances. I want to really structure things, build things, make sure that things are in order, but I'm also going to innovate. I'm going to think outside of the box. I'm going to change things. I'm going to consider the alternatives, right? You can explore alternatives. You can ask different questions. Maybe this is about gaining feedback from others, or this is about joining up with others, right? This is about teamwork. This is about other people being involved. So we could see something interesting here, because as Pluto is in the second in this Aquarius house, it's squaring this Scorpio house in the 11th. So maybe this is about you investing in a group or a cause, or others investing in you. This could be other people's gains, other people's finances and resources with the 11th house. But there could also be some challenge, right? So I'd actually be cautious if we think about you potentially gaining finances or resources from some group or organization, because it could be a case of the interest rates may go through the roof, or it could be a case of debts not being paid very well, or things being a bit messy there so debts being a bit messy. I don't have to tell you twice, but just be cautious, just be cautious of your financial health, I think, with this. And I just mean this through the lens of be careful who you are lending money from, who you're borrowing money from, but also be cautious of who you're lending money to. okay? Who you're lending money to. Yes. And it could also be, another way to look at this could be a case of you getting your life in order in terms of insurance and keeping yourself covered, keeping yourself right. Maybe it is about the future. It's about thinking more, it's more about thinking, how will this influence and shape me in the long haul? Okay. How can this support me and provide for me? And not just me, but me and my family, me and my loved ones. So much about long-term visions there, Capricorn. Now, another possibility, just to give another example, with this 11th second energy, this could be a case of your self-worth or your self-esteem changing, going through renewals because of a group dynamic. Maybe because you get involved within a certain community or a team and you feel quite good about that. You feel like you're respected, people recognize you. Naturally, with the square, there could be some challenges up ahead, things to overcome. There could be conflict, there could be disagreements there between you and certain group members, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either, right? So for instance, if it is that you want to gain a certain position and maybe someone else is going for it as well, there could be a clash there. But hey, it's all about the learning experience. And maybe too, you can just feel good about yourself knowing that you went for it, knowing that you committed yourself to a certain plan and how that plan is related to your financial goals, how it's related to your group involvements. Okay, so succeeding houses, we've explored that a little bit, but the second house is part of the trinity of substance. And then the 11th house is part of the trinity of socializing. So this is where we could see disagreements, disputes, or just tension to do with financial conversations. This is where we want to think about being truthful, being honest, being responsible, being wise about your financial decisions here. And thinking about trust, trustworthy resources, trustworthy friendships. You could very well find that you suss out any manipulative tactics during this transit. So tactics maybe from organizations and companies trying to manipulate the ways in which you spend your money or the ways in which you earn money. I mean, with Pluto in the second house, it could be that you come into a good bit of money here, Capricorn, right? Because Pluto can be large sums of money. Could also be a case of shared resources, shared money, right? So this could be where you marry into money in some way, shape, or form. Or you do business with someone and then, there's just some kind of financial exchange. But whatever the case, this is also where what is coming through anyway is to make sure that you don't fall for any tactics, any manipulative social tactics there, and to think about how you align yourself with honest, righteous people who have a moral code that you agree with. Yeah, trustworthy relationships here, Capricorn. And the other thing is this stuff is happening in the Eastern Hemisphere. Okay, in the Eastern Hemisphere. So a lot of this is about, your willpower, your self-motivation, how you take action, right? You being action orientated on the things that you wish to achieve. Then again, Capricorn, this could also be a case of you giving to charity, giving to certain causes that you believe in, and thinking about how you wish to make a difference within the world, right? Make a difference within your communities and within society in some way, shape, or form too, right? Okay, so now we're going to move on to Aquarius. Thank you very, very much, Capricorn. Okay, so Aquarius. How will your Scorpio house play a role in Pluto transiting your first house over the next 20 years? Well, let's think about your Scorpio house. We see here for you, Aquarius, that when it comes to your career path, your professional path, well, your professional identity, you're the types of people who prefer a position, a role that involves investigation, research, getting to the bottom of things, the occult, psychology, trying to figure out and understand why people do the things they do. And it could also be a case of you exploring the unconscious quite a bit and the shadow. And we also notice that you tend to transform quite a bit when it comes to your professional lives. So this could be, for example, things coming to a close within your company, within your firm, and it's out of your control. It's out of your control. It's out of your hands. So you're forced then to transform. You're forced to change the trajectory of your life path. Or it could be a case of you transforming because your purpose changes. Your purpose completely changes. It's like, this is not my purpose anymore. This is not what I want anymore. I'm going off in a whole new direction. So we see this with you, and we also see the strength and the resilience and courage on your part. And whatever you do commit to for the long haul, whatever career path, whatever purpose, whatever goals there, you can be very determined, and you tend to consider self-mastery, right? So there is this emotional determination and being unshakable, being very focused and concentrating on the path forward. Also being highly protective of your reputation. Okay, so thinking about how you're seen in front of the public, I do see this as you being very protective of that. Considering your survival needs in this regard, and naturally you can be quite devoted to your accomplishments and to your achievements. Then we see here with Pluto transiting your first house. Okay, so it'll be in your first house, Aquarius. Well, we see that you will undergo major transitions and renewals to do with your aims, your goals, your direction, how you approach the world, how you approach life. And we could see how these things will play a role in how you show up within your career. So, for example, this could literally be some sort of transformation to do with your identity. Example, getting married. And getting married, possibly even having a child or having a family, raising a family. These things then changing how you show up amongst the public, how you show up within your professional lives. Or this could be about a certain personal goal, right? A personal aim of yours, and you decide, you know what, I want to follow that. I'm passionate about that. I want to do that. Again, there could be changes to your career path because of that. For example, cutting down the hours that you do within your current role and managing things differently. Then again, this could be a case of you connecting with like minds, joining a certain community, a certain club, group. And that's more from a place of desire and want and interest. And then again, this stuff can influence and reshape your life's trajectory. But we also want to consider this square aspect, right? Because there could be some tension here. So maybe, for instance, you do decide, I want to be a part of this community because we're working toward a common goal together. But because you're a part of that, maybe it doesn't sit very well with a manager or a boss, or It doesn't sit well with a certain company you're already a part of. So there could be some clashes in agreement there. Or this could be a case of you deciding that you no longer want to follow a certain path. You say, this is not for me. It's not for me. I don't want to do it anymore. And because of that, again, you make a change to your career, you make a change to your public image and your reputation, and you maybe start over, or it's that you challenge the status quo, or you can even come across as quite paradoxical to some people. You might even offend some people because of a choice or a decision that you make to put yourself first, and then you sort of think to yourself, well, no, I don't care. I'm not here to please you, okay? This could also be a case of rebellion and freedom. But again, that rebelliousness and that freedom could clash with the professional side of you. Quite an interesting time for you, Aquarius. But hey, this is about ambition. This is about being determined. And we could also look at this square aspect having this Mars-like quality to it. And so stepping up to the challenge. Stepping up to the challenge, being brave, being honorable, fighting for yourself, defending yourself, fighting for the things that you want, standing up for the things that you want, being able to stand up and make a change and to innovate in some way, shape, or form. Again, I think a lot of this is about your professional world, your professional identity. So this actually makes me follow on to this angular house stuff, right? So the first house is about the self-identity, your self-identity. And then the 10th house is about your career identity, your professional identity, your public, right? Your public identity. So I'm going to say this. This could be about you actually leaving a certain public identity in the past, so to speak. Okay, this could literally be about you deciding, I don't want to be known for that anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. It's not for me, right? With the self, right? The self says, no, I'm not going to connect with that. I don't relate to that anymore. I'm not doing it. Or this could be about the ways in which you transform your body or your appearance. And then you could show up within the public, on more of this public setting, and you shock other people, you really surprise them with how you have changed. But the other thing is, the first house is part of the Trinity of energy, and then the 10th house is part of the Trinity of substance. So there is a relationship here between your energy levels and the way you initiate with the first house. So there's the relationship between that and then how it is that you show up professionally. And maybe even a part of this is your health. It's about your health. It's about your physical body. It's about being able to put yourself first, to maybe walk away, to step away from a certain work setting or from a certain path that you thought you would lead and you thought you would follow. But you go, no, actually, I'm not inspired anymore. I'm going in this direction. I want this for my life. So you can maybe hopefully see here the message that's being conveyed. But the other thing is angular houses mark the beginning. So they mark the beginning of the cycle. They mark the beginning stages, the initiation here. So thinking about how Pluto has been in a cadent house for you over the past 12 years in this 12th house. So a lot of emotion, a lot of introspection, going behind the scenes, getting to know yourself, all the psychological stuff, Aquarius, huge, really. Carry forward the lessons. Carry forward what you have learned on a psychological level, on a spiritual level. carry those lessons forward into that of your life path and your aims and your goals, and then think about your future. Think about what you want to build for the long term there. Then we also want to consider here the Eastern Hemisphere is being activated. So with the Eastern Hemisphere, a lot of this is, of course, about self-motivation, taking action, and being strong-willed. So much of this transit then is about being able to consider what it is that you want to succeed within, what you want for your life. And this is also happening in this fourth quadrant. Okay, the fourth quadrant is being highlighted, and that involves even contributions to something larger than yourself. So, there could be something here about how it is that you do contribute to society, and how by you thinking more about your own needs and desires, how that can even help shape and influence how you show up within those larger communities and how you show up when it comes to those contributions. Good luck, Aquarius. Thank you so much. And now we're going to move on to Pisces. All right, so lastly, we have Pisces. All right, Pisces. So the Scorpio house for you as Pluto travels through your 12th house over the next 20 years. Well, with Scorpio in your 9th, right? So Scorpio resides in the 9th in your chart. Well, Scorpio here in this position can indicate that you really do transform when it comes to your deeply held beliefs and when it comes to your worldviews, and also when we think about your higher education. You're the kinds of people who don't just want to know information, or you don't want to just pick up the facts and the basics. You want to fully dive into the information and understand it through and through. We see this as you making sure that all areas are covered, and you strongly questioning whatever you hear. And I would also say you teaching. Okay, so teaching people from this place of experience and depth and understanding. Your teachings can really help transform the lives of others as well, Pisces. We also notice that when it comes to your deeply held beliefs, there can be this real emotional connection to them. And perhaps too, a lot of this is about devotion, really devoting yourself to a certain faith, a belief system, for instance, a certain philosophy, a way of life. We further realize here or recognize here that there can be much intensity when it comes to how you share your knowledge with the world. A lot of passion in your voice, a lot of passion in your delivery. Plus, we see that you can go through these renewals when it comes to these areas, and you can show much resilience and courage in the face of significant changes, even if those changes come and they are completely out of your control. There's still this part of you that can say, okay, this is out of my control. I surrender control, and it's time to go through whatever this is, right? So maybe you even recognize that there's always a lesson, right? There's always some kind of spiritual lesson to learn, even through the difficult times. And when we look to Pluto in the 12th house, so Pluto transiting the 12th house then could communicate something about your deeply held beliefs. Maybe this is a case of you needing a lot of time to reflect and to consider what your beliefs are. You may find that your deeply held beliefs or your worldviews or even, your spiritual values, your spiritual principles, your code of ethics, your morals, these things could change massively, especially if it is that you go through an enlightening experience, or maybe this could be a situation where you are traveling, right? There's some kind of long distance travel involved. there's relocation, there's greater movement involved. And then it's almost as if you are awakened to a new truth, a new reality, a new discovery. This could even be where maybe there's some kind of loss, or there is a sense of sorrow and suffering and despair. It could be despair if we really think about the 12th house with Pluto there. But even through these feelings and these emotions, there's still so much that you can learn from them, right? And maybe a part of it too is your own vulnerabilities, addressing your vulnerabilities, addressing how you connect with people, how you open up and share with other people. With Aquarius in the 12th house here, maybe there is something about finding it difficult to really integrate your own uniqueness, or to be able to say, these are my quirks, these are my eccentricities. And so, hey, this could be a case of Pluto, in a sense, getting you to embrace even the different parts of you, right? The quirky, strange, unusual parts of you. And how, by doing that, even your message can change, the delivery to the world, how you share with the world. These things could very well change because of that introspection, because of your ability to really go within. And perhaps a part of it too is, well, your mental well-being. I can't help but think that with Pluto in the 12th, there will be many surprises to do with your mental well-being there, whether this be a new insight, a revelation, some kind of epiphany, of course, that comes through, or this could be a case of you having to address something that's challenging, something that really tests your patience, and something that feels confined or blocked or limited in some way within you. So yes, there can naturally be some difficulties here. Hey, we'll give an example of this. When we think about the 9th house and the 12th house, maybe this stuff is about your faith, questioning your faith, questioning your beliefs, questioning especially your faith in a higher power. So there could be a lot that comes up for you there. This could even be a case of you experiencing some sort of challenge to do with your spiritual practices and making time for your spiritual practices. There could be some unexpected changes that happen here. And the thing to mention is there is that square, right? This is where we see the tension and we see some conflict. But with squares, they do have a Mars-like quality. And so the square aspect could be saying, step up to the challenge, go through the renewal, trust in your faith, trust that you're being guided. Of course, this all depends on what you believe. I just want to say that. This is very much dependent on what your beliefs are. But hey, this could also be a case of some sort of travel experience leading to you needing some time to yourself. Or this could be about retreats. This could be about isolation, seclusion, needing to separate, needing to differentiate in some way, shape, or form, needing to create space to detach in some way, shape, or form from others, especially when it comes to matters related to beliefs and philosophies and worldviews, preaching and things like that. Yes, there could be some tension and resistance here, but there could also be greater strength and courage on your part. Then when we move on to this section, so the 9th and 12th houses, they are cadent houses. So cadent houses, they are about readjustment. They readjust what the succeeding houses materialized. So with Pluto being in your 11th house, the succeedent house, throughout the past 16 years, much of what has materialized has been to do with friendships, communities, socializing, being a part of something bigger, okay? Thinking about wider networks there, how it is that you connect on social media, how you relate with people on social media, for example, even thinking about the transformations you've went through when it comes to greater substance and quality when relating to people, and thinking also about greater, so building healthier, more solid foundations as well, and showing integrity, being disciplined, being somewhat responsible within groups and social situations. This could also apply to certain organizations or teams that you're a part of. So you can carry over those lessons that you have learned, more to do with those social things, the social side of things. You can carry over those lessons into this contemplative period, into this period of really looking within, of getting to know yourself on a much deeper level there, addressing the shadow, even addressing any pain or emotional challenges there, and addressing detachment. Of course, detachment can also be, it can really be healthy. Maybe even a big part of Pluto and Aquarius is teaching you how to detach in healthy ways so that you keep yourself safe and protected, especially from people who are very preachy or kind of shove their opinions down your throat and other people's. So there is that. And then we also want to think about how the 9th house is tied to the trinity of energy, and then the 12th house is tied to the trinity of emotions. So there could be some conflicting energies to do with your inspiration, to do with your beliefs and your meaning, and how those things can maybe even play on your emotions or play on your ability to rest or relax or to sleep even. But naturally, this could also be about you letting out a lot of emotion, okay? Letting out a lot of emotion, maybe going to therapy, counseling, seeking some sort of professional help, doing something that is quite therapeutic, having a certain spiritual practice that can be very healing and helpful, right? So there's the importance of attending to your emotional landscape as well, Pisces. And also, whenever we look to this part, so we think about how this stuff is more so happening within the southern hemisphere. So this is about your career. Maybe a lot of this is about your professional life, what you want to achieve within, what you want to succeed within. So do keep in mind that there is a part of this that is about how you show up more on a collective level, right? Thinking about how you wish to succeed in terms of your ambitions and being somewhat, career focused. Pisces, thank you so much. And I'm just going to say, reminder, I've been saying this for a few signs, but just as a reminder, Mars is the other ruler of Scorpio. So you want to follow Mars as well throughout this transit for more information just about your willpower, your energy levels, your drive, things like that. Just look to the cycles of Mars for more information. It can be helpful. Thanks again, Pisces. And with that, everyone, this has been the rule of your Scorpio house as Pluto travels through Aquarius over the next 20 years. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you have found the information to be helpful. Let me know if you did. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a like and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. If you would like to book a reading with me, you can visit my website, hannahselsewhere.com. And if you really did enjoy the video today, you can always buy me a coffee. But hey, there is never any pressure to do anything. I am just so thankful, so grateful that you are here today. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.